seasoned police chief confronts a young officer whose racist comment goes viral. What happens next will challenge everything you thought you knew about redemption, justice, and the true meaning of wearing the badge. The small suburban police station was quiet, with only the faint hum of the lights and the low murmur of officers typing away at their desks. It was a typical afternoon, one that Chief Daniels had seen countless times in his years on the force. A seasoned leader, Chief Daniels was known for his calm demeanor, his sharp judgment, and above all, his fairness. He had worked hard to earn the trust of his community, and to him, the badge meant something more than just authority. It was a symbol of integrity, honor, and protection for everyone. Across the room, Officer Ryan sat nervously at his desk. He had been with the department for just over 3 years, a promising cop with a reputation for being hardworking. But lately, Daniels had noticed subtle shifts in Ryan's behavior. Comments, jokes, small, almost insignificant things that hinted at a growing sense of entitlement, and worse, disdain for certain people in the community. Then came the incident. It was supposed to be a routine traffic stop, a minor violation, a few words exchanged, and then back to business. But during that stop, Officer Ryan made an offhand, derogatory remark about the driver's race, a comment that was caught by the body camera. Within hours, the video had gone viral. The outrage was swift and unrelenting, with calls for action flooding the department's lines. The video threatened to undo years of hard work that Chief Daniels had put into fostering trust within the community. Now, it was time for Daniels to confront the officer. He knew the situation was serious, but he also knew this was a moment of reckoning, for both the department and Ryan himself. Chief Daniels sat behind his desk, the soft light from his office lamp casting long shadows on the walls. His face was calm, but there was a weight in his eyes, one that came from years of experience, from knowing when things were about to go terribly wrong. Officer Ryan stood in front of him, shifting uncomfortably from one foot to the other, his hands clenched tightly at his sides. The air between them was thick with tension, the silence pressing down on both of them. "Sit down, Ryan," the chief said in a low, controlled voice. Ryan hesitated but obeyed, his gaze shifting between the floor and his superior. Chief Daniels leaned forward, folding his hands on the desk in front of him. "You know why you're here," the chief began, his voice steady but firm. "That video, what you said during that traffic stop, it's all over the news." Ryan's face flushed. "I didn't mean it, Chief. It was just a joke. Everyone else jokes like that. It's just the way things are. I wasn't hurting anyone." Chief Daniels cut him off with a sharp breath. "That's not the point, Ryan," he said, his voice rising slightly. "You're a police officer. You wear a badge that represents the entire force, the entire community. And when you say things like that, it isn't just a joke. It undermines everything we stand for." Ryan's face fell as the weight of his words hit him. The chief's voice softened, but it carried an undeniable authority. "You cannot be a part of this department if you don't respect every single person in this community. Every race, every background, every life matters. If you can't understand that, then you have no place here." Ryan swallowed hard, realizing for the first time how deeply his actions had cut. Officer Ryan shifted in his seat, his discomfort growing as the chief's words weighed down on him. He had never been in a situation like this before, being called out for something he didn't think was a big deal. He had made the comment, sure, but it wasn't like it was malicious, right? It was just a joke. A stupid joke. And everyone joked like that, didn't they? "I don't know why everyone's making such a big deal about this," Ryan started, his voice slightly defensive. "It wasn't like I was trying to be offensive. It was just something I said in the heat of the moment. You know how it is, Chief. Everyone cracks jokes like that when no one's looking. It's not like I was disrespecting anyone directly." Chief Daniels didn't flinch. His gaze stayed steady, unwavering, but there was a subtle disappointment in his eyes. "It doesn't matter what other people are doing, Ryan. You're supposed to rise above that. You're an officer of the law." Ryan's fingers drummed nervously on his knee, his eyes darting toward the window, avoiding the chief's gaze. "I get that," he muttered. "But you've got to understand, sometimes it's hard out there. We're dealing with criminals, with people who don't respect us, and sometimes you've got to keep control of the situation. It's hard to keep that control when you're being disrespected, and sometimes you need to show you're tough. Maybe those kinds of attitudes help with that. The chief's eyes narrowed slightly, his voice calm but firm. Attitudes like that aren't what keeps control. Respect and integrity do. Without those, you lose everything. Ryan's face tightened, but he was reluctant to admit it. He wasn't ready to fully take responsibility yet. Chief Daniels took a deep breath, his voice steady but filled with emotion, as he looked at Ryan. You wear that badge, Ryan, and it means something. It means you're a protector. Someone who is sworn to serve everyone, no matter where they come from, what they look like, or what they believe. That badge is supposed to stand for honor. It's a promise, not just to the law, but to the people, to their safety, to their trust. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in before continuing. There are officers out there who've given everything for this. Men and women who've laid down their lives for justice, who've been spat on, cursed at, and ridiculed. They didn't do that for recognition. They did it because it was right. They fought for something bigger than themselves. Daniel's voice grew raw. I've seen it firsthand. I've watched officers who didn't get to go home at the end of the day because they were standing up for what's right, for the community. And I've watched others endure racism in silence because they knew they couldn't let it control them. They fought to change things, to make this department a place of respect and integrity. The chief's eyes softened for a moment, a flicker of personal history creeping in. I've struggled with systemic racism myself, Ryan. It's something I've spent my whole career fighting to make sure this department wasn't a part of that problem. And now, your actions, your words, threaten to undo all that progress. He looked at Ryan, his disappointment palpable. I've seen potential in you, but I can't let your biases destroy everything we've built here. I'm disappointed, Ryan. I expected more from you. Officer Ryan sat in stunned silence, his earlier defiance slowly crumbling under the weight of the chief's words. The room felt smaller now, the walls closing in as his mind replayed everything. The video, the laughter, the comment. It wasn't just a joke, it wasn't just an offhand remark. His actions had consequences, real consequences. He had tarnished the reputation of the department, of the people who had trusted him, and worst of all, he had let down the very community he had sworn to protect. His heart sank as the realization hit him like a wave. The truth, so simple and clear now, was that the badge he wore meant nothing if he couldn't respect every single person, regardless of who they were. The idea of justice, the idea of equality, it was bigger than any comment, any fleeting moment of frustration. He had failed in the one thing that mattered most. Ryan's throat tightened, his eyes welling up as the chief's disappointed gaze lingered on him. He opened his mouth, but the words were stuck, caught in the rawness of his regret. Finally, his voice cracked. Chief, I'm sorry. I know what I did was wrong. I never meant for it to go this far. I thought it was just a joke, but now I see how wrong I was. His words were barely above a whisper, but they carried the weight of his shame. I let you down, he continued, his voice breaking further. I let the whole department down, and I'm sorry for everything. I'll do whatever it takes to make it right. In that moment, Ryan finally understood the true responsibility that came with wearing the badge, and he knew he had a long road ahead to prove he was worthy of it again. Chief Daniels sat back in his chair, the silence between them thick with the gravity of the moment. He watched Ryan, his expression a mixture of disappointment and cautious hope. The apology had been genuine, but words alone weren't enough. The chief knew that actions spoke louder. He could see the remorse in Ryan's eyes, but the real test would be what came next. After a long pause, the chief finally spoke, his voice stern but not unkind. I'm not going to fire you, Ryan, not today. But make no mistake, this is your last chance. You've shown me your potential, but you've also shown me that you've got a long way to go before you'll truly understand what it means to serve and protect. Ryan nodded, a mix of relief and fear washing over him. He had a second chance, but he knew it wouldn't be easy. I'm going to assign you to additional training, Daniels continued, his tone unwavering. You'll be going through racial sensitivity courses, counseling, and I'll be closely monitoring your work from here on out. If you ever pull a stunt like this again, I won't hesitate to terminate your career. This is a line you don't cross twice. Ryan swallowed hard, his mind racing with the weight of what he'd just been given, a final chance to prove he could change. He wasn't sure how he would do it, but he knew he had to. This wasn't just about keeping his job, it was about earning back the trust he had lost. As he stood to leave, Ryan's mind was quieter, more focused than it had been in a long time. He knew he had a long road ahead, but this confrontation had been the wake-up call he desperately needed.